All right. Well, thank you all for joining the third IALD Middle East session. Today, we will be chatting with Claudia Mitcham and Afsal Mohamed about the luxury villa that was the winner of the Residential Lighting Project of the Year at Light Middle East. So a few things that I have to say is that, first of all, this webinar is being recorded and will be available via the IALD YouTube channel. If you want to share questions with our guests, please write them down in the Q&A section and we will answer them towards the end of the interview. For those of you who don't know us, the IALD is the International Association of Lighting Designers, and we focus on promoting the importance of lighting design in the construction industry. So if you are interested in becoming a member, you can visit our website at www.iald.org or email us at middleeast@iald.me. So thank you all for joining us. And now I'm going to introduce our guests. First of all, Claudia. Welcome, Claudia. Claudia Mitcham is the creative director of MWM Studio and co-leads a strong and talented team of creative interior designers and support staff. With her many years of experience, she brings her expertise and skills to the team with the foresight to seamlessly incorporate innovative design solutions into each concept and maximize every project to its full potential. Claudia served at renowned design firms such as LW Design Group, MKV Design, Richmond International, GA Design International, and Hirsch Bettner and Associates before establishing MWM with Olivia Watts in 2015. Her firm, MWM, has grown to become an award-winning design house with 25 staff members and 28 current projects in Dubai and abroad. So thank you for being here with us, Claudia.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining us today is Afsal Mohamed, founder and director of Light and Lights. Afsal's role involves being the strategist of Light and Lights brand and its operations in the region. He plays a pivotal part in shaping initiatives that will build closer ties with the design community, providing design-driven solutions to add onto a project's narrative. In the short span of 4 years, Afsal has headed up award-winning projects like Blind Tiger at Medina Jumeirah and Luxury Villa, the one that we're going to be talking about today. And he is actively involved in a clutch of high-end F&B and residential projects. So welcome, Afsal.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. So let's get started. First of all, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction about the project, tell us a story behind the concept, and give us a good idea of what this villa was all about.
Yes, well, it was a villa. It's in Dubai Hills. It was a shell and core property originally. So when we first visited it, it was literally, it had extremely bad glazing, nothing in it. There were birds in there, and it was completely empty. So really, we had free reign to do whatever we wanted to the interior. We would really only in the basement, a few drainage points we had to work within the parameters of. So it was extremely exciting to be able to take that and form it into the villa it is today. The client wanted quite a lot of bespoke features within the house. They're big sports fans. They love golf, so we put in a simulator room, cinema. One of the wife owns a gym actually, so we had a big gym in the basement area. So yeah, it was exciting.
Well, that definitely sounds exciting, especially the golf part of everything.
Yeah, so they just wanted it they entertain a lot. They have teenage families, so they wanted lots of lounge experiences, breaking up the house with sort of areas that they can sit, and they have families coming to stay from their homeland. So yes, that was.
So how many rooms are we talking about, and what kind of like the style was?
Bedrooms were six bedrooms in all, but the bedrooms are, I mean, insanely, all the family bedrooms were suites. I mean, they were separate living rooms, a bedroom, walk-in wardrobes. There was a couple of guest rooms that we extended out to create on the ground floor for families, members when they can stay. And there was also a prayer area, which was another of the guest rooms. So, I mean, it could be a 7-bedroom, really.
So Afsal, you were going to say something. Please join the conversation.
Yes. Sure. Well, I was fortunate enough to be involved in this project at a very early stage, right after the first batch of ID pre-concepts were approved, renders were released, and the space was still in its shell and core form. So going on site, taking in this vast expanse of 35,000 square feet area, that was quite something. And especially being involved in this stage enabled us to have a lot of flexibility in terms of allocating provisions for various feature installations, and also understand the particular needs of the client and adapt accordingly, being functional at the same time, catering to the aesthetics, which was critical for Claudia and her team.
Because the areas were so massive in the circulation spaces as well, we did break them up with a lot of shelving and screening to create these pockets which were more cozy and warm and feeling. There was quite a lot of there's quite a lot of stone on the floor, but we started to use play with timber panels, and then the warmer lighting around those areas. So yeah, it was a good.
Was the client at all, knowledgeable of lighting in particular and what they wanted in terms of lighting, or did you have to guide them a little bit through the whole process?
Yeah, well, this was sorry. So sorry to cut you. Yeah, well, this was the most interesting part of the project for us, because the brief we received at the initial stage was that the client wanted extremely bright environments, and then we had a look at the design renders and the direction, etc., and it had really clean, minimal architectural elements and ceilings, etc. So finding a balance between both was one of the key challenges.
So how did you convince them to go with something a little less bright and maybe, more like highlight versus low lights or something like that?
I think I think with that, it was so bright, you don't want it to feel like, a mall. The sort of scale of volume of spaces we were talking about, it was in danger of feeling too big. And I think Afsal really, with the scene settings and everything, really created a great mood throughout. So it feels like a home. And she does say that. She said, when I first walked in here, when it was finished, she was like, I didn't know what to do. And then she said, really now it feels like my place, my happy space. So that's really nice.
That's fantastic. And that's what you want to hear from a client, right? That they are really happy with what the end result looks like, right?
Yes, yeah. They love
that's
it.
Really great.
So that's always good.
So do you want to walk us through a few of the images now?
Yes, yeah, I'll start going through them. There's a few, so I will keep it a little bit short. So it's
you can take as long as you want.
It's a 32,000 square foot villa, so it's pretty massive. These first few, I'm kind of taking you on a journey through the project. So it is very contemporary. We played a lot with stones and textures, as you'll see from here. So this is the main entrance, and this entrance connects to different levels. So there's, we go through, you'll see this is double height space here that you can see with the feature chandelier. And that chandelier is also represented in a few different areas. So it gives that design language that connects spaces throughout the house, which was a nice feature, I think. This is the formal area. So they, as Afsal said, they did want something a bit bright. They didn't like things too dark. So we kept it light and airy. Unfortunately, the landscape hadn't been finished when we photographed the project. So we had the curtains closed, but it really, honestly, it's got the most incredible views and the most gorgeous pool outside, but none of this was captured here. But as you'll see, we've introduced the timber lighting in these shelving. You'll see in the next image as well, where Afsal introduced this lovely lighting coming in with the bespoke chandeliers as well above. And then there was a lighting feature that we had behind the backdrop of the dining table. There was a backlit screen that really sort of framed that view when you were looking the other way towards the house from the other side of the room. It was a nice feature.
So Claudia, tell us how important was it to incorporate all of these light colored finishes to make the space feel bright? It was just something that the client was open to from the beginning, or did you have to convince them a little bit?
They didn't want any dark finishes, actually. There was one time I tried to do in the spa at one point, I was trying to do a black steam room, and they were like, no. And I was like, oh, with LED lights. And they were like, no, it's got to be white. We really don't want dark finishes. And so, there's a little point here that there's some lighting in these columns here. Because it was an existing structure, that we were left with a lot of very unattractive columns and big concrete slabs. The staircase, I'll go on to that in a minute. That was it was a bit of an eyesore when we first arrived. Afsal, do you remember what the staircase looked like when we walked around the site? It was pretty hideous.
Yes.
And these columns here, if you can see, we played with light. So we've mirrored sections of the columns at the sides and then uplit either on the top and the bottom. So it gives us this feeling of lightness. So as you're walking towards them down the corridor, it really feels like a much lighter structure than it was. So it was, yeah, just little things like that the client really appreciated as well. It just makes you think of, think of these design elements.
So Afsal, how hard was it to incorporate lighting into all of these little details, given that this was already an existing villa and you were working on top of an existing structure?
Well, the key factor was communication and coordination. It was there were the contractors involved and Claudia's team who were coordinating for all the different details involved. And for us, it was about making it technically feasible. So getting these details or ensuring that they don't get lost in translation was the most important part. And also with regards to the visible joinery LED lighting, we were particular about not having any dots visible, having the right kind of depth for the profiles to be inserted, making sure that the mock-ups were done and we get client approvals, and most importantly, to ensure that there is no binning, there is no color variation in all the different types of joinery LED strip lighting that is involved. So to achieve that overall homogeneous effect, which complements with the color palette of the space as well. So so that was a tricky part, but with the right communication, we were able to achieve it.
Yes, and I'm looking at this now, and you supplied some of the you supplied all of the loose light, the FF&E lighting. So this chandelier arrived from, where did it come from? Eastern Europe?
It came from Italy. Yes, it is Italy. Design.
And then,
yes.
But it had a bad fitting, so you modified it for us, and the client was happy at first. They were like, no, we're going to have to send it back, but you really went above and beyond on that. So, and it looked like a new piece actually, didn't it? After
yes. The chandelier in this picture had black cords hanging from the ceiling, which doesn't do justice to the space, and the client was not at all happy with it in the beginning. But then we came up with an idea to have a fixed rod come out from the ceiling in the same finish of the ring, and then it completely changed the environment.
And before it was moving as well, so you know it gave it a solid structure, so it didn't, you know, because we wanted this overlapping effect. It immediately made it much more functional.
Yes, yes.
So just speaking, sorry, but speaking about FF&E, I think it's very important, especially for us lighting designers, to make sure that the decorative lighting is to the liking of the client, right? So Afsal, I guess that you can speak to this, that it's sometimes very difficult to get the end client to make a decision on what kind of aesthetic they are looking for, right? So how did you manage to get the client to pick and choose their favorite pieces for each space? Was it something that you, Claudia, pointed out to them, or maybe it was something that was shown to them at a showroom? Like how did that work? Tell us a little bit about that.
Generally, we would present to the client our desired FF&E, you know, things that we think would suit the space. So in the FF&E stage of our projects, we will specify all of this. Then we'll work then with Afsal to see if we're going to be purchasing them, or maybe some alternatives because timelines or price limitations from the client. So it was very successful on this. We did change a few pieces, but we kept pretty true to the original design, didn't we?
Yes, yes, we did. But to answer this question, the most critical part is the interior designer's exposure and knowledge when it comes to these decorative fixtures, because they need to complement all the other pieces in there, and more than a lighting designer or a supplier, the interior designer can put things together better and show it to client. And so it's always it's always takes various workshops and analyzing various different options and finishes to see what works the best. But it's a feat. It's an activity which, just as a lighting specialist, we will never be able to achieve by ourselves. We always need the interior designer to back us up to pick on those pieces.
Which speaks about the coordination that you were talking about
earlier.
Yes,
it's very critical. The more number of workshops and brainstorming sessions you have and options you are open to consider, the better the projects turn out, especially when we have budget constraints where we have pieces picked out and they turn out to be maybe like 1/4 or even sometimes even half the entire budget. So we have to find the alternatives without compromising on the integrity of the project. So that's always starts with multiple options, back and forth selections, and pinning down to the one that works in all ways.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Claudia, if you want to continue walking us through the project.
Yeah, so this is a family area. There's a kitchen here, and then it goes into a lounge with a family dining area, 10 people. And again, this was all actually an extension with a timber ceiling. You can't see it's actually grooved, the timber ceiling here. But it was a nice space, and the light from here, the natural light coming in here with all the screens and everything was incredible. And at twilight, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
Here are the circulation spaces. So this is more first floor. As you can see, the staircase here. I'm hoping, I thought we had a whole board on staircases, but maybe I've missed it, which is the most important bit of the project. You can see as I was talking about, the level changes. So we've got the void here, and as if you were to walk through and turn left there, you would be getting the entrance. And this is the lift interior. And this is
By the way, I love that staircase. The way that it's illuminated on all sides, right?
Honestly, this was one of our, as soon as I walked into the property, I knew this was going to be the main sculptural feature of the house.
Absolutely.
And we did this whole design because it was it was completely uneven, very thick concrete steps. And everyone was like, oh, you know, you're just going to have to clad it. And I said, no, but we can make this beautiful stone feature. It was a big engineering feat, actually. We had to do steel structure underneath. And then to give the lightness, we knew we needed all this LED around it. There were a lot of junction problems, but it turned out, I mean, beautifully. And the client, we argued and argued and argued. The project manager was saying, no, it's costing too much. And we're like, this is going to make the project. You've got to do it. And I'm so glad they did. And everyone at the end of the project was like, thank God we did it. And I was like, so,
Yeah, it really shows how much sometimes we have to fight to achieve our vision because we know it is the right thing to do.
And you know what I will say, this client really showed a lot of trust in their consultants, actually. And I think it shows at the end of the project. They really let us lead them, which was a really nice experience. And I think you can tell from the end result, you know, if you let us do what we do, you get quite often a better result. They didn't change their minds all the time. They, you know, they fixed it and then approved it and then left us to it.
Yes, that was really critical to this project, where the client trusted everyone's expertise to do their job and didn't involve too much. I mean, one of the approach we had in terms of the architectural lighting design was to have these maximum spacing between spotlights. So the most, let's say, convenient part of this project as a lighting designer for us was the ceiling height, which went up to 3.2 meters high. So then we were like, we were testing out different products, and we were like, we used the Light Shadow Pro from Floss in this, which had a 60-degree beam angle and 16 watts power output. So we were able to space out clusters of light as far as 2.2 meters apart from each other. Right. So as you can see, we were able to achieve like really clean ceilings, right? Contrary to conventional approach of having a spotlight every 1.5 meters. The height really helped us. So we were able to have more expanse covered with lights with a cleaner symmetric distribution. And also all the details in terms of the indirect lighting, in terms of the cove lighting, in some images, you will see the timber details on the ceiling, which enables some cove lighting to be incorporated. All of that contributed to balance the environment without making it feel too much. And if the client sometimes want to pump up the space, and we can achieve north of 500 lux, which is a workspace level lighting environment, but then you can also dim it down with the automation system to have that really subtle, soothing environment. So you get best of both worlds without compromising on aesthetics.
That's fantastic. And I do see them sort of paired, right? Was that part of the initial design?
Yeah, we love that. We don't like just single lights in a row. And we quite often with our projects like to run these very slim AC diffusers, because obviously in the Middle East, we have to have AC everywhere. So we try and design at the beginning it to look like it's part of the ceiling design. And, you know, Afsal then took our designs and improved them tenfold.
It does. No, it does amazingly clean, beautiful ceilings, and the downlights they just make a unique space. You know, it doesn't feel like just any other house or any other apartment, right?
Exactly. Everything came together as a design
as well
feature.
Playing with the light, we introduced, it's quite a deep villa, so we introduced a lot of mirror and reflective surfaces onto the walls as well, so it just reflected more light. The client really wanted this connection to nature, so that was important to them, and that's something we tried to introduce as well. Okay. This is the master suite. All of the bedrooms are about the same size, actually. All of the kids' rooms were obviously this size as well. Again, integrated lighting into the shelving and the TV units. These beautiful pendants, glass pendants from Italy. And then their incredible walk-in wardrobes.
My dream closet.
No.
Everyone's
And
dream
it's
closet.
like, concealed doors into her wardrobe, and then his wardrobe was off the bathroom, and it all interlinked. It was a very interesting fan. This was their bathroom. Again, they wanted it very, very white. And we'd introduced sort of ombre effect glass doors into the shower, and then you could still see the illuminated niches, and they had a textured stone inside, so it was all playing with textures, playing with lighting, underlighting steps, very important to the whole aesthetic of the interior.
Was the underlight of the steps also used as a night light? Because I see it not only in the bathroom, but also in the rooms, right?
Yes, yeah, they did. Did we do some night lighting in there?
Yeah, so it was set up with the automation to have it double up as a night light. Yes.
Yeah, very useful.
Yes. Now in our current projects, we are pairing it up with a timer and sensor, so that when you wake up in the middle of the night, the sensor picks it up and switches on, and the timer makes it happen only during nighttime. So it's a very convenient feature to have, because you don't want to be searching for the switches when you wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, no, it's a good.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of our clients are asking that for this now, actually.
Yeah.
This is one of the kids' rooms, a bit of a playful pendant here from Vibier, is it? That one?
Yes, that's Vibia. Yes.
Yeah, that was quite fun. And his bed was sort of had this big upholstered platform. And as I said, this, this boy was 12 or 13. I think.
Yeah, Mehdi.
Yeah.
Yes. There's every boy's dream room there.
In
In
my
fact,
son was very jealous when he said, "Mom, why haven't I got a room that size?"
yes,
This is
yes.
his bathroom. This is
Yeah, actually, every part of this house is somebody's dream space.
again, playing the lighting effect. Another of the son's bedrooms and bathrooms.
It all seems to have a very consistent design throughout. It doesn't look like each person requested their own sort of list of, wishes for their space. It does look very consistent, right?
We have that was quite a lot of our clients, our residential clients do specifically ask for different looks for their children, but not this one. It was quite nice. They're all they're all, the youngest one was 12, 13, and the daughter for this one goes to university. She isn't there a lot, but has an amazing, she wants a little Instagrammable space, and yeah, this is her bedroom and lounge. Bathroom, dressing table. So I think it gives you a very, good. Unfortunately, all of our professional photos were taken during the day, because that's when we could access it. Afsal, do you have any night times?
Yes, I have some shot during the evenings and at night, so I'll just run them through once you're done. Yes.
Yes, and so this space is very interesting. This is the basement area, which is their sort of entertainment lounge. The kids use this all the time. They have a snooker table, a kitchen, cinema that I'll show you in a minute is through here, and then the simulated golf room. What was created was a courtyard garden here, so that brings in the Zen garden, and that brings in a whole load of natural light. The gym area is surrounding that. As I mentioned earlier, they own gyms, so it really made it didn't feel like a basement at all at the end, did it, Afsal?
No, not at all.
No, I was going to say, as soon as you mentioned basement, that was the last thing on my mind with this space. It definitely doesn't look like a basement.
So all of the circulation, and then obviously the golf room, you don't want much natural light. The spa, you don't want much natural light. So the areas that didn't need it, we sort of tucked to the side, and then all of the more entertainment areas we kept nice and light. Dividing up with these little screens, you'll see, I think Afsal's probably got some better photos of this. where they're illuminated from within and uplit as well. So I mean, it's a good look.
So Afsal, was there any color changing lighting in that game room at all, or was it all very white and clean?
No, the game rooms over here, we just had a consistent 3000K lighting. Yes, well, there's a golf course area where it had its own system going on. So there were some lighting options in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the cinema.
Wow.
Cinema. Yeah. And this was it's about 2,000 square foot gym in the basement. So that was incredible. And then it had vision panels, so switched glass into the car park. So he had, I think, parking for 12 cars there. And this is the Zen garden, which unfortunately hadn't been completely finished. But you can see through into the circulation area. So very sociable space. Another powder room. So that's it for the presentation on the villa. I think, Afsal, if you want to show some of yours, I will stop sharing.
Thank you for sharing this. This really gives us a good idea of how fantastic this villa is.
Thank you.
I can just pick up some images and take it from there. One second. All right. So I do have some images. Well, they're the same areas, obviously different perspectives. Yes, can you see my screen now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, we were able to capture the contrast that was achieved in the space. So with the DALI automation system, especially for all the powder rooms, for all the entertainment areas, we were able to achieve different scene settings that enabled a mid-contrast environment that really focused on the key elements around the space. So
that image that you just showed actually brought a question. I didn't see a lot of artwork around, but was there, beyond the one that you're showing here, was there much artwork that you had to focus on throughout the villa and the common spaces?
We did have some 3D pieces, didn't we? There was this painting, there's another, and then on the staircase, there's some 3D metal.
Yes. So we had some sculptures, we had some wall hanging paintings. Yes, there were artworks around the space. I don't think all the pictures were able to achieve the artworks involved. Yeah, so this is another.
And a lot of people in circulation spaces, weren't they? So it's probably not something we'd have focused on the photography on.
Yes.
And actually, there's a big sculpture that's arrived since we photographed it under the stairs.
Which is right under the chandelier.
Huge
yes.
wire sculpture, so huge wire sculptures on this marble plinth at the base of the stairs now.
Yeah.
That sits here.
Can't get enough of these stairs.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how did you integrate lighting within this there? How challenging was it?
It was with perimeter. Oh, so from an interior design perspective, we did a recessed LED light all around the floating steps. And then obviously Afsal looked at that and the specifications of the lights to make sure that it worked with the stone, so there wasn't reflection and it was the right color.
Yes, and most importantly, the ease of access for maintenance, because we are looking at big quantities in terms of the strips being installed. So we wanted to have the right kind of profiles, which had just the right amount of heat dissipation. We wanted the driver locations to be organized for easy access. Also, we had to ensure there is no voltage drop in the LED strips to ensure a consistency in the brightness of all the steps. So a lot of small details, but totally worth it. Totally worth it. So fulfilling to see it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so this is some nighttime images in the basement area. This is another one of our favorite features with which is these partition louvers with integrated joinery lighting inside them. Really makes a ton of a difference compared to any normal louvers you see. So
and it's nice. And so another thing is we quite often use, so instead of a piece of artwork, there is actually an artwork piece around the corner here, but it's nice having the wall lights sort of just to offset on a wall, and this layering of lighting is very important. It gives good scale to the space.
Yeah.
Tend to play a lot with that.
Yes. So yes, more images.
Like you said, Claudia, like all of these, elements that separated the spaces, they really create sort of like these, as you mentioned, these niches where people can gather, and it doesn't feel like this massive space, right?
Yeah.
So it's, but I guess the lighting, and this question would go to you, Afsal, the lighting then highlighting these partitions emphasizes the, the, let's say, coziness of being in that space.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just for these wall features, so the partitions, we tried out different color temperatures, and it looked the best when we put in 2700. So that kind of gave it a different texture and enhanced the materiality of the partitions. So definitely at nighttime environments, when all the lights are switched off and just these partitions and the wall lights are on, it creates an entirely different ambience. So it's the same space with dynamic nature in terms of how it feels over the course of the day, and the flexibility they have is immense with all the different lighting features and the automation system.
You mentioned something very important, which is, you tried it out with several different color temperatures. So for this project in particular, did you have to work on many mock-ups and tests on site to verify the installation and other features of the lighting?
Oh yes, we had a full-time project manager on site, exclusively dedicated for lighting, going and even myself, I was there several days a week just to ensure that that the details are perfect, and we wanted a maintenance free, hassle-free, and uniform installation. So we always say that getting the material delivered on site is half the job done, especially with lighting. It's we can have the most beautiful and efficient trimless spotlight, and may not exactly end up being installed the way we want to get it installed on site. So so a certain level of guidance and monitoring and project management is required to execute projects like these. And it's mandatory, I would say.
Yes,
that's a good
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
And Claudia, from your point of view, this coordination between lighting and interior design, how important is it to get a result like this?
Oh my God, it's so important. And I mean, we, as I mentioned earlier, we try our best to do as well as we can, and I think it's very important to integrate lighting. It makes a space feel so much, it gives a space so much more depth if you light it well, and you highlight areas that you want to draw attention to. Shelving units, for instance. I mean, you see a shelving unit without lighting, you see it with lighting, it's transformed into a piece of sculpture, really, as is the staircase. And then it's really picking up on textures. We love to play with that in our designs. If we're doing niches, we love different textures and stones. Yeah, crucial.
Absolutely. Light adds life, right?
Yeah.
I love what you just said, light at life. So I'm assuming that's why your firm is called light and lives.
Yeah. Well, that's one way to
Now I
put
get it.
All
No,
right.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That is a wonderful way. It's a wonderful way to put it, really. Obviously, me being a lighting designer, I do see the importance of it. But as an ILD member, obviously, we're trying to promote the importance of lighting. So this is a perfect example of how important lighting can be to achieve this, this out of this world effect, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a question that I usually ask all of our interviewees, which is, well, it's a two-part question. Number one, what was the most challenging part of the project in terms of both interior design and lighting? And the second part of the question would be, is there anything that you are not particularly happy with and you would have changed it? Wow, what and how you would have changed it? So I don't know, let's start with Claudia and take whichever question you want first.
Sorry, the first one was, I've suddenly thought of the changing one. The first one was the challenges.
The first one was the challenges, correct. What was
There
the most difficult challenge here?
there was a lot of areas to fit within the space. It was a bit like a jigsaw puzzle in certain areas. We had to extend out to create the guest suites. The staircase was a big challenge because it really was a mess when we got there. So that it all worked out well. We extended in various places, and probably one of the things that I regret about the project or wasn't happy with is the spa area, which isn't photographed here. That was in the basement, which was the one that we had to work with drainage points in. And as you know, it's an existing foundation there, so we couldn't really go too deep. But we'd specified a sunken jacuzzi, which in theory should have been possible, but it got installed as above ground instead. So you walked into this lovely, it's meant to be a lovely sunken jacuzzi, and so you walked into the spa area, and it was 90 centimeters high. So that felt very strange to me. So I would say, the things that I weren't happy with were probably little coordination issues on site, where maybe someone came in and said, oh, I want this at this height, and didn't think of the knock-on effects that had with other elements within the house. But generally, it was a very smooth project because the client didn't make too many changes. Didn't make really many changes at all.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very smooth.
So Afsal, from your side, tell us about the most challenging part of the project and what would you have changed?
Well, for me, the trickiest part was to get the symmetry right in terms of the light arrangements, because you had a lot of, it's a massive space, and you had a lot of open areas, like you had a lot of corridors, which is transitioning from one area to the other. So you kind of have a continuity of arrangement going on. So I mean, this image will explain to you better, right? So you can see in this mirror how the rest of the area is reflected. So we always have to find that perfect meeting point of light position around functionality, around spaces to achieve the best form of illumination. And at the same time, aesthetically, it's appealing to look at on the ceiling, and then that should continue on until the space is broken. So, and when you have such vast areas serving, it's divided into multiple spaces serving different purposes. So to get that symmetry right was the trickiest part. And then obviously when we do something on a layout and the project moves on site, not necessary that everything is accurate to the millimeters when the wall is built, when the ceiling is made. so the next part of the challenge was, okay, we had a symmetry in concept which worked very well on an AutoCAD layout, but then it's an entirely different story on site. So then we had to be on site, physically measure the differences, because no amount of drawings would never accurately reflect as-built conditions. So and achieve what we had intended. So that was the trickiest part of the job. But then I'm grateful to have an extraordinary team who was up for the challenge, and we made it happen. In terms of having to change something, well, honestly, I really cannot think of anything that I would have done differently on this project, because we were given the freedom as well as the opportunity to work on something so amazing, and we went it with all our heart, the entire team, and we're quite satisfied with how it turned out. And even the on-site team, where at the client, the project manager, they were all quite flexible in order to accommodate and understand the value of lighting we are bringing forward. So yeah, I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, that is still an answer, and what you said is very inspirational. I mean, it's such a beautiful space that, you know, it won an award. So it's totally fine not wanting to change anything. Who knows? Maybe if you had changed that one thing, it wouldn't have won the award. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna let our attendees know that I'm opening this up for questions. So if you guys want to ask any questions to Claudia or Afsal, feel free to write it down in the Q&A portion of our Zoom meeting. So in the meantime, while our attendees think of any questions, I will ask a couple of questions that I've been curious about. So for example, Afsal, you mentioned that for these louvers, vertical louvers, you did pick 2700K because it looked better with the material of these louvers. However, for the project, you picked 3000K. What was the reason for it?
For picking 3000K?
Yes. You know, 27 seems to be the go-to for residential. Maybe
Yes.
some clients don't like it. So I want to hear your reason.
Well, primarily it was the color palette of the project. We had a lot of neutral tones around the space, and 3000K did the most justice to not compromise on the environment from what the client and the Claudia had imagined in the beginning. So we did some testings internally based on the color palettes we received from the contractors, and this worked out the best in terms of maintaining consistency, especially to the visual renders that was shown to the client in the very early stages of the project itself. And this was something that was approved and well liked.
It gives you a lot of flexibility as well. If you go 2.7 on the downlights, quite often you get a very yellow tint. If you go to 3000 with the color set, you know, with the scene settings and everything, you can dim it down. So yeah, I think it's a nice solution. And then obviously the warmth with the 2.7 in all of your ambient lighting in the joinery and pieces. I think it's very successful.
So, well, in fact, for projects which has darker tones, 2.7 would really work and be impressive, which is the common practice among lighting designers for residential project as well as for F&B project, especially in and around Europe and North America. This has been a common practice. Well, I'm of the opinion it's all, end of the day, it's colors, right? So you pick the right colors which go well with other colors.
It's all about that harmonious
Absolutely.
end, right?
Absolutely.
Great. And also another question I had was, how did you work out the controls of such a large villa with so many light layers?
Okay. Well, we we have a sufficient experience in understanding the basic levels of functionality required. So for us, it was always about working with the automation supplier to understand the capabilities of the system, and then simplifying it for the client in terms of the different modes or utility they have for the space. So, once we had that information, then we were able to group the lights together. So, and the different intensities for each areas, and it was fairly achievable. Yes, the technicality behind the controls, it's a whole different story to get all the DALI loops right, all the modules to be compatible with the number of drivers in the circuit, etc. So that was yeah, that was an incredibly difficult challenge, but we had really efficient contractors on board to achieve this.
And so from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is that making it simple to the client, no matter how complicated it was behind the scenes, was critical for you. Am I getting it right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It all came down to choosing the keypads, and the keypads had a certain number of switches to it, and then allocating the different scenes. So they had n number of functionality through the application control through the iPad interface, but clients at the end of the day rarely tend to utilize any of this in most cases, and rely on these keypads on the wall, because that's what we are all used to. So so we had a mood setting, a bright setting, a relaxed mode, and a launch setting, and that's what and then we created different scenes per room, and that's we stuck with that.
Fantastic. Well, our audience seems to be a little shy today, so I will continue to ask questions if that's okay with you both. You have mentioned a lot about the coordination on site and how important it was. How much time was the construction, or how much time did the construction take? How much time versus the design phase take?
It was actually it was 18 months, I think, from
Yes.
Start to finish. We had a very, very on it project manager who cracked the whip.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, the design stage probably took about 6 months, and from start to finish, from initial concept to detailed design package being handed over. Yeah, 18 months, I would say, from there.
That's fantastic, because you don't see that a lot in Dubai, right? I mean, doing things quickly.
We had a very, very on it project manager.
No,
Yes.
that's great, and which I assume was also critical in managing to get all of these details right.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And you know, we were all on site as well. I mean, as a company, MWM never sort of walk away after we've done the design. We always want to be there on site. We were up there. Afsal, I was probably up there every week or maybe more. And or one of our post-contract team were up there, always overseeing it. Snagging all the time as it went on, not just one final snag at the end. I think that's fundamental. Seeing things, if there was something, catching things going wrong on site is the most important thing as well. It's too late if they've already been installed. If you can see it before it happens, it's so much better for the client.
Yeah.
Which goes along with what you said, Afsal, right? Of having someone on site was so critical.
Absolutely, absolutely. What worked remarkably well on this project is that we had a bunch of individuals who really cared about what the outcome was. So nobody was about, okay, this is my contract, here's my job done, and it's not my responsibility anymore. Nobody did that. So
Yeah.
everyone was there to ensure what was designed was achieved, and the intended results are perfect. So that pursuit of perfection went really a long way.
And you're really only as good as your last project, aren't you? I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And I think that's a perfect way to finish this interview. So first of all, I want to thank you both for such an interesting conversation and such a beautiful project. You have well deserved this award. So, and I'm sure that you will get many more in other categories. So thank you very much for participating in this session. This has been fantastic. And to our audience, well, I will just remind you that we will have this interview recorded and uploaded to our IALD YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And until the next session, thank you, guys.
bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.